Welcome, everyone. This is Polyphenols, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and hear LOTRO players. And this week we have with us Terry Adwin
Hi,
and Sans Winda.
Hello.
Hello there. And we actually have news this week.
Woohoo!
Yay! And we are going to begin with the update 25.2 release notes, which includes a number of things, which was released on Thursday, January 9th, which include on the captains. Captain Heralds now deal Western S damage. I presume that Cinders is happy about that.
Probably?
Yeah.
What did they deal before? I don't know.
I think they did common before.
Probably.
Yes.
more on that later.
Oh, okay. You have more on that later. And then Lore Master Pets now deal Balerian damage.
Interesting.
I don't. Yeah, more on that later because that's a new player question.
Okay. Now, I do wonder, though, about the Sabertooths. Are they still going to do cold damage, or did they also get changed to Balerian, I wonder? I guess we'll have to test that out.
Definitely have to test that.
Yes. Then in crafting, new gear can now be crafted by tailors, metalsmiths, weaponsmiths, and woodworkers.
Cool.
Yay.
I don't know what this new gear is. That's probably
I don't know
high-end
either. I
gear.
forgot
Okay.
to look.
Yes. The recipe for cooked carrots has been changed to require butter and water instead of lard. Why? I have no idea. The recipe for stuffed cabbage has been changed to require a potato instead of a pork shank.
Cool.
I guess it's more appropriate for the recipe. I don't know.
I don't know. I've never made stuffed cabbage before.
I've made a lot of it before, but
maybe stuffed cabbage is one of those items that's on the vegetarian deed, and they decided to remove the pork from it for that reason.
That would make sense.
I would have to. I don't know. I'd have to check to see what's required on the vegetarian deed. Needful Ingenuity's tooltip now has its proper bonus, and Anorian Critical Captain Ornaments now offers extra statistics. And as for items, armor items from the sets of the Veil, of the Ball, and of the Veil's armories and Shadowbent are now correctly dyeable. I'm sure any cosmetic
stuffed cabbage is on the vegetarian list.
All right. Now I see why they removed the pork shank then. Since the sleeping cat housing decorations can now be placed in a small yard hook in addition to the large furniture hook. So if you wanted an outdoor cat, now you can have one.
Cooked carrots is also on the list.
Which is probably why they removed lard for that one too.
Well, I mean butter.
Well, yeah, but butter is considered to be vegetarian. It won't be vegan, but it'll be vegetarian.
Right. For those who are interested in becoming a vegetarian in LOTRO, by the way, the full list of foods that you have to eat is mushroom pie, fried mushrooms, cooked carrots, stuffed cabbage, vegetable medley, and ultimate carrot cake.
Oh, that doesn't sound too hard. Do you have
Consume
to eat,
them
a lot
6
of
times.
them?
It's 6 times.
Oh, okay.
It's a hidden deed.
Yeah. Only 6 times?
Yeah, 6 times each.
Okay, I guess I assumed it was 100 times each or something like that. All right.
No, but you need to be at least level 40 because the ultimate carrot cake requires level 40. It's a tier 5 recipe.
You have to be level...
You have to be level 40 in order to eat it, yes.
Yes, that means in order to complete the deed. But you could start the deed before then, I hope.
Yeah, you have to be level 40 to complete it, is what it says.
Yeah, all right. Yeah,
you can't eat the final one until well, they're going to need to update this now because scoop of lard and pork shanks is no longer required to complete the recipe. But yeah, those are the 6 things you have to eat 6 times each.
Okay. Then, item level bonuses for gear has been corrected for Minas Morgul instance tiers. Dragok scales now go into crafting carryalls.
Ooh.
What use it
Finally, if
for?
I think you're thinking about the Cake Eater title, that's the one that requires you to eat 100 lembas.
Oh, okay, okay. I see. All right, now, yes. 100 limbus, that's a lot.
That's a lot of lembas. Of course, if you're lurking around in that tier where lembas food is the regen food, it's actually not that bad. Actually, I think Sarissa's got that title because that's what happens when you cap your characters for long periods of time.
Yeah, if I ever finished that one, it would have been finished on the legendary server where I was probably eating quite a bit of limbus there. Then Scrolls of Universal Crafting lore now stack with crafted lore scrolls. Then as for quests and adventure areas, corrected some terrain and placement issues in Minas Morgul landscapes. Some polish has been made to Minas Morgul endgame quests. Defeating a Gauntman in the Gauntlord instance now has a slight chance to drop a Tier 1 reputation relic. Swift travel is now possible from Hootvis to Vegbar. A more convenient defeat location inside the Minas Morgul is now available for Gothmog's Rage and a Vengeful Heart. And the 3-player instance now receive the solo version of the Cyan Mob effects. I would presume that means the other version of the Cyan Mob effects must be really nasty for a 3-player group. The Scion of Spite in Duelist and Scion Effect Defiance Protector Scion buffs have been reduced. Housing neighborhood stable master routes to other neighborhoods will now be properly discovered when you speak to a neighborhood stable master. Several routes offered by the neighborhood stable masters now correctly require a current or previous subscription to travel for silver. Travel between neighborhoods to festival locations and to starting areas remain available for silver with no restrictions. And the Discovering the Descendant quest line is now available to accounts with the Rohan Legendary Edition on the Legendary Worlds for Honor and Ithil. Oh, that's right, because the
For the
Discovering of the
Rohan
Descendant...
pre-order.
Right, because it's a pre-order item, so therefore they've unlocked it a month before, because they did announce that Rohan is going to be opened in mid-February for the Legendary servers.
Valentine's Day for Rohan. Yay.
Yeah, Valentine's Day for Rohan. Yeah, it'll probably be around the time period that we're talking. Let's see. Mid-February, that will probably... I would have a feeling that they're probably mean either the 11th or the 18th are the most likely dates, would be my guess. Probably depending on how well they have everything ready on that. And so, because it's a month before then, they're opening up Discovering the Descendant quest line. All right, guess back. Ooh, I was wondering what I would be doing with my character. That I could be doing Discovering the Descendant. Ooh.
There you go.
That's good to know. And the Minstrel's Inspiring Cries and Calls has had its text updated to accurately reflect its duration. And as for UI updates, the text description of Might has been updated for Champions, Guardians, and Bjornings. And class items such as Runekeeper Satchels now have a visibility toggle in the Appearance UI.
I was super excited for that news.
My Runekeeper is excited about it.
Oh, but they like to turn off their satchels?
I've always wanted to turn off the satchel because let me tell you something. If you forget to store the satchel, you have to go find one that you can coordinate with your outfit.
Yeah, a lot of them don't really look good with your outfit.
No, they really don't. There's only a handful. And if you forget to store it or forget to put it in your wardrobe, you have to go all the way back to your stupid vault. Which, I mean, you have to do that for the wardrobe anyway, but it's such a pain. I ran into that so many times with my Runkeeper when she was coming up, and now I don't have to worry about it because I can just toggle it off.
You just toggle it off until you have a convenient time to get there.
Or just toggle it off altogether, and then nobody
And
needs to know that I'm a Runekeeper.
Well, there is that too. Then those are the release notes for 25.2, and they also had a Bulwer preview for 25.3, which is actually sort of a meshing of a 25.2 preview and 25.3 preview, because most of the patch notes in here are exactly the same as for 25.2 when it went live, because I think Bulwer went up just before 25.2 went up. Now we also have,
right.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Now we do have a Bulwer preview that was put up by Squirrel. He's in fact talking about Bulwer previews in general. Say what is a Bulwer preview, which is essentially an open beta test on there, and when it is, which it's already, the first preview is already passed because that ended yesterday as I'm recording this, but there is expected to be a longer preview next week where they're hoping to have some things cleared up from what we had from before. And they talk about that we have 3 new dungeons. Let's see, Bar Nirnath, the House of Lamentation, Gashtan, Kutot, the Halls of Black Lore, and the Fallen Kings. Now, this preview does not include the raid. The raid is still coming after this. They want to get those 6 players up first and running before they start testing out the raid.
As per usual.
As per usual, right? And then we have some little tidbits here, which is that a actual difference from what we, make sure that I didn't miss anything here. Anyway, Squirrel's article does call it 25.2.1 instead of 25.3, I guess because it seemed like to be some sort of weird combination of 25.2 and 25.3. It's essentially it's 25.2 plus the instances that are going to be in 25.3. I don't think this is all that's in 25.3. They just wanted to get early feedback on those instances. And that's the entire purpose of this preview. And I suspect it'll be a couple more weeks, maybe even February, before we see the actual 25.3 come out.
Probably.
Yeah. Which then brings us to the Beacon, issue 143. Yes, the Beacon is back. And this is obviously in Mordor somewhere. Actually, it has to be in Second Age.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be Second Age Mordor because I can't see those trees existing in Third Age Mordor.
No, I'm pretty sure they all got blasted by Mount Doom erupting.
Yes, and Mount Doom looks in pretty intact shape in this picture.
Yeah.
For our community spotlight, Winter Stock arrives next week, which would be again on Friday, December 17th on
January 17th.
Oh, it is
I
a
know it
misprint
says
in the
December.
Beacon. Yes, you're right.
I know it says December, but we're actually in January. It's
Yeah, we are in January. Otherwise, it would be a rather long time, very early announcement. No, it's actually January 17th. It'll begin on Langeable, despite what the Beacon says. Thank you for noting that. Then Deco de Mulu is looking for your Yule theme houses through January. Players are uploading screenshots of their uniquely decorated homes. And Albi is a brand new German language newsletter publication focusing on role playing in LOTRO. The Online Volley is published every 2 weeks and focuses on role playing and advertising of events on Balaguer. And you could click for the first issue, and I'll assume that I won't understand a word of this if I opened up the link.
Because it's in German.
Yeah, because yes, it is in German, most definitely in German. So it is, of course, associated with the Balaguer server, which by coincidence is a German server. So let's head to the Kin Hall. Oh, actually, the Gleaming Thread presents Midnight Mistwalker.
Yeah.
Midnight Mistwalker. What exactly is the Midnight? Is that the latest? Ooh.
It's very pretty.
And the landscape very chilly. Yeah, this is the Midnight at Forkel or something? Or is that someplace else?
It could be for Cal. It could be. No, actually, it probably is for Cal because there's a lodge kind of across the way.
Ah.
I was gonna say
So
it could
that could
actually
be
be on the anvil somewhere.
like Forlaw or someplace.
Oh, that's true. It could be Wildemore.
Oh,
Especially with that particular mist effect.
yes.
Wildemore.
And the other thing that favors Wildemore is because you've actually got all these trees here in one of the angles in there, and
Good
Wildemore is
point.
full of these trees that are suddenly
Forkel
dying.
doesn't really have trees.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been cold for too long. All right, then we will go with Wildemore for now. Now let's head to the Kin Hall. The Knights of Dol Amroth are a Brandywine-based kinship that has been active since 2011. This diverse kin has characters levels 6 through 130 and prides itself in being a teaching kin for new and returning players. They have a Discord, multiple houses, a crafting area, and more. Find them on the Brandywine and learn more. And it looks like their kin hall features a dragon.
Well, why not?
Yeah, why not, I guess. Let's then head into the weekly comment. Name a kind of cookie. And of course, that immediately spurred on the debate on what the definition of a cookie is.
It did?
Well, yes, because you've got. Though I believe that in England, most of the things I think of are cookies in England are subsets of what you would call them in the U.S. anyway. So.
Well, my favorite cookies are snickerdoodles. Which they probably don't even have in England. I think it's a German cookie.
Yeah, it would sound like a German cookie. Sans?
Name a kind of cookie?
No, name a kind of cookie, yes.
Sugar.
Okay, sugar
Or
cookies.
Spritz.
All right. And then I'll go with oatmeal raisin cookies.
We have some of those actually downstairs.
Okay.
You know what I want now is chocolate chip cookie dough.
You're not even going to bother baking the cookies.
Well, I mean, half baked would be nice too.
Let's head into the fan site news and player events. And Unicornucopia is a monthly themed concert taking place this Sunday on Langerville, and this Sunday means the day after we record this, or the day before this goes up. And LOTRO Players, it kicks off the new year in episode 338 because they didn't want to mention the name. Of course, couldn't come up with anything funny to go with the name of our last episode, I guess. Then LOTRO Stream is a great place to find streamers on Twitch. Check out recent shows by Skymatic, Red Baron, and Big Ed Mustafa. And Twitch is a home to numerous non-LOTRO streamers as well. Check out new players, MA52, get a French language perspective with Mr. Derive, and Dane kicks off 2020. And on YouTube, Game and on YouTube, see, Gameolid Gameoliadon finds drums in the deep, Zogog plays a Shadow Hunter, and Dragons makes a hard choice.
It never gets less amusing hearing you stumble over that name. Just in case you were wondering, it really doesn't.
All right. Then let's head into the screenshot of the week where I'm trying to figure out, is this a sunrise or a sunset? Kevin emailed this screenshot submission to us this week featuring Jedediah at Treebeards Hill. Thanks for sending it in.
Which I think makes that a sunset because I'm pretty sure that view faces west.
All right. Then we'll assume for the moment that this is a sunset. And that concludes our beacon for this week. So let's head into our store sales. Terry, what's on sale?
Nothing good. Bunch of crafting junk.
Oh.
LOTRO bonus days this weekend gives you a plus 25% crafting XP boost, and you get 20% off stat tomes, regen food, run speed boosts. Oh no, it wasn't crafting stuff. Okay. Still not really anything great. And attack damage boost now through January 16th. All of that stuff drops out of Hobbit presents, so don't buy it. And the weekly coupon gets you a free Slayer Deed Accelerator for 60 minutes with the coupon code SLAYFAST now through January 16th.
Yay! And let's head into the site news, and we'll begin with where in Middle-earth is Emeraldina number 37. And I don't know, I found this one actually to be easy this week. I don't know about anyone else. But as usual, this is Emeraldina in a nice, warmer climate because I think I complained last week about how the last few
She's
were all
using too many
cold.
snow.
Yes, I heard the important thing about this week was spring.
Yes.
I like that she's matched her outfit to the flowers behind her.
Yes, that all made it work out very well too.
Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that's a dye color that I boycott because it's festival dye.
Oh, well. Oh, you mean that's the plum?
I'm pretty sure that's Shire Plum, yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think it is. Not that I am familiar all that much with that color, but it looks like it could be a Shire plum.
I believe it was Shire Plum.
Yes.
And I believe that if Terry complained, I was supposed to tell her, but it's springy!
There's plenty of other colors that you can use for spring. Pink is good.
Then let's head into an article by the Bearded Minstrel, who takes update 25.3 and looks at the new dungeons. He created a video looking at each of the 3 dungeons and giving his impressions on it. Please note that this is after the first Bulwerer build. He also makes a note of this and talks about what he liked about the dungeon so far and where maybe there could be some improvements done into them. And it's all an interesting set of instances where there's one where you get to fight some old nemesis that you've fought before. I guess there's some sort of mind thing that's done so that you wind up facing these ones. I think one was, for example, a cook that you face in Moria. He said it was a good fight, except he says, well, but you can't leave out the "do you want this pan seared" line that's from the original. So he's hoping that they add that line back in.
Well, yeah.
Yes. So we'll see what they do on that. And so he gave some nice feedback on that dungeon. There was one bugged boss, but this is the first preview, so we'll probably expect that to get. There's usually a bugged boss in the first preview. So we hope that that gets fixed by the time it gets released. Some of them were pretty tough, he was saying, but I guess that's especially the last one where he said the most, let's just say, not exactly strictly to the lore instance there is. So I guess we'd have to find out what the justification for this particular one, but it has you fighting the Nazgul.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's obviously not certainly whatever lore is behind this particular instance, it can't be in your timeline unless it's someone forcing you to have memories of them or something like that.
Right.
So we'll see how that one goes. But there apparently were smaller group versions. I think that there are one-player versions of the first two of them, and that the third one is the one with the Nazgul absolutely requires 6. I'll have to go and check them out when the next cycle comes around and see how quickly I get ripped apart if I try any of them. I did not have time to go into Bulwer this week. But anyway, he gives us our first impressions, and thank you to Bearded Minstrel for providing your video. So let's head out into the new player question. Sans, what's the question?
So, my question is, what are Westerness and Balerian damages? Why do Captain Heralds get a different damage type than Lore Master pets? And what kind of damage did they do before this?
I'll begin with the third, and I believe they did common before this. I think Sabertooth cats were doing cold damage, but I think everybody else was doing common or something like that. Or that, or they're all doing something different. I'm not exactly. I don't think I ever bothered checking it in detail.
I know, I didn't check mine.
Yeah. So now it's too late to check what they used to do, because now they do Balerian or Westerness damage. So the question is, of course, is what are those two types of damages? And Terry, you have anything to say on that?
No, other than that they're different damage types that do more
Yeah.
damage to certain creatures, because I can never keep them straight.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing. All right, Westerness damage is particularly good against undead. And that's
So
probably
Captain
why.
Heralds, some of which are undead, do more damage against undead now.
Well, I think that the Oathbreaker thing is only a skin, isn't it? Not necessarily.
Probably. But they like to run around with their ghosts behind them.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of captains that like to do that because they're now keeping their oath or something like that. So I usually go with a with a living one, so I don't think about it. But traditionally, the race of man has a dislike for the undead. So and of course they're associated with Westernness because the men of the West and all that stuff there. So I think that's the reason why Captain Heralds are doing that. Lore Master pets with Balerion. Balerion is particularly good against ancient evil and spiders.
Ooh, against spiders. I like this.
Because spiders are related to ancient evil.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, spiders are officially listed as spiders and insects, but the big spiders, especially the really big ones, yeah, are really a type of ancient evil. Like Shelob, I'm sorry, there can't be a more ancient. Okay, I guess Ungoliant was a more ancient evil, but that's another matter. So yes, that is. Those are just different types of damages, and each type of damage is stronger against certain types of creatures. Common is usually considered to be the worst type of damage because it's not particularly good against anything. Western is as I said, particularly good against undead, Valerian against ancient evil. I think it's light's good against orcs. There's a full list of it in the wiki. I never could remember the entire thing. These days I tend to just do a lot of Valerian and don't care. But if you're trying to get the super most effective damage to it, then you might have a weapon that does each type of damage or something like that. And of course, you've got your hunters and your wardens who could turn their ranged weapons so that they do either light or fire damage, depending on the situation. And fire damage is good against things like wolves and wargs and stuff like that.
Fire's actually really good against lots of things.
Yeah, I think it's halfway decent against other things also. And so is light. I think light is pretty decent against many types of undead also.
Yes.
It's just that there's so
Especially
few things
evil,
that do light.
ancient evil.
Yeah. And in fact, I believe that one of the complaints that was coming from the first impressions video was that one of the Nazgul that you're fighting was only really damaged by light. So unless you're something like a Lore Master Minstrel who has this tactical light damage, or you're a warden throwing javelins, or of course a hunter's main weapon could be turned into light. So unless you had some means of doing light damage, you aren't damaging it much. So that's something to keep in mind there. Also, some of these damage types can be telling in certain areas. For example, there's a damage type called Ancient Dwarf Damage, and that's particularly good against things like worms. But there are also some sections in the Sarnar area, which is the rep dungeon for Thorin's Hall, or in the
It's
deeper
good against
parts of,
evil dwarves.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's also good against trolls and evil dwarves and stuff like this. So if you go into the deepest parts of that dungeon, then if you don't have ancient dwarf damage, you're only going to scratch the guys. So it's needed for those areas, and you need Western Nest if you're going to go into the deepest parts of the Bree Rep dungeon, the ones that's in the Barrel Downs. And there is a numinous instance that also pretty much requires Western Nest damage in order to get much done over there. So there are some areas where you are going to be needing that. And I know there have been a couple of times where I was going to go into one of those areas, one of those dungeons. I think it was the one in Illuminus, where for that dungeon I just went to a skirmish camp and bought a weapon that had Western Nest on it so that I could survive through that dungeon because the weapon I had wasn't doing anything against him. And now your question is, why do Captain Heralds get a different damage type than Lore Master pets? I think it has to do with lore more than anything else. Captains,
That
as I
makes
said,
sense.
associated with race of man, and the only other ones who might have been associated with the West would be the High Elves, who also can be captains.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Any more questions relating to this?
I don't think so.
All right, then let's head into the week in LOTRO. Terry, what were you up to?
Not lots, but I did get a couple of things done. Terry Adwin met some more friends in the Morgul Vale. And did yet another hunting evil wildlife for rations quest. I've talked about these quests before, and this one actually ended better than all of the other ones. So first of all, we get this quest, and my reaction is, are you freaking kidding me? Because we've done 2 of these already. Because there was the one in Mordor, where not only did we hunt the ancient evil down, we then charted over the flame, the ashes of exploded Mount Doom. So it was like evil cooked in evil with evil. So and you get back and you're like, yeah, really don't eat that. Just
don't
fall on your sword first. And then there was the one that we did in Second Age Mordor, which was basically the same thing, except Mount Doom hadn't exploded, so we weren't roasting it in the fiery ashes of leftover Mount Doom. But I mean, still, it's ancient evil. Don't eat it. So here we are again in the Morgul Vale, which is still in Mordor, and they said so hunt the goats and hunt some of the deer that are hanging around. So of course we're going, and the dire goats still ancient evil, and I'm like, this is not the breakfast of champions. You don't eat ancient evil for breakfast. Or any other meal, but you definitely don't want it for breakfast or really any other time of day. Just don't eat the ancient evil. Well, the deer at least were coming up beasts, but still. So then we're joking about the difference between the ancient evil and the lesser evil. Because it's still evil. It's still, it's in Mordor. Don't eat anything that grows here. And for once, we finally get back to camp and turn the quest in, and the guy you turn it into is like, oh, this is foul. We're not going to eat this. We're going to send away for rations. And I was like, thank you. Because it's the first time that the NPC actually didn't sound like they were really considering eating what we brought back. So I felt a little better about having done that quest. Ancient evil for breakfast. I mean, really? No, just don't eat the evil thing.
Yes. One person said, Dorlin said, it's not barrel cheese. It's worse.
Oh, and that brings me to, I was going to touch back on this later, but then I figured I'd save it. For those who are curious about food eating titles in LOTRO, because most of them are hidden, you don't realize that you've completed the seed until you've completed the seed. There is the unwise, which of course everybody's seen and it's not, I mean, it's technically hidden, but everybody's seen it and you kind of really know what that is. I mean, you eat the barrel cheese because it drops off of the whites in a couple of barrows in the barrow downs. And if it's in your inventory and you're curious and you eat it, you get the title the unwise, and usually you die. Which is why you're called the unwise, because it really saps your health. There are people who have lived
if you're
through
close to on level.
Yeah, especially if you're on level for that area, it's going to kill you. There are, of course, people who have lived through the experience. If you've got a really good healer who's going to pump you full of morale for the entire, 20 minutes that debuff is on you?
You have to heal for 20 minutes to survive
Somebody
on level.
wants to stand there and heal you for 20 minutes so you don't die. But there is also Breakfast Connoisseur, which is eggs and onions, Hobbit breakfast, delicious crispy bacon, and Hobbiton omelets. 9 of each of those. There is Carnivore, which is the roast pork, the pork sausage, the pork chops, delicious crispy bacon, steak and kidney pie, coney stew, beef stew, salted beef delight, roasted chicken, delicious steaks and stew of kings. 3 of each of those, because that's a really long list. The pie eating champion, which kind of randomly pops up at the Brie Festival grounds because it was actually up yesterday when we went by there, and I didn't stop and eat pies, but I did notice it doesn't actually seem to be necessarily tied to festival. It just kind of randomly pops. I think it's actually tied to the time of day. I think it pops up in the afternoon. Then there's the Pie Maven, which is steak and kidney pies, mushroom pies, coney pies, perfect pies, and spiced apple pies, 7 of each. The vegetarian one we've already talked about, the cake eater one we already mentioned, and the last one is in a pear tree. Bacon wrapped roast partridge, baked beans with partridge, partridge in a pear treat, partridge hot pot, and partridge pie. 5 of each of those will get you the in a pear tree title. And I think I've actually seen that title before and wondered how people got it, and now I know how people got it. So yes, and I kind of love that the game has fun things like that in it.
It's pretty awesome.
You can be wandering around and see strange titles. It's like, how did they? And then you look it up, and it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of food.
Yeah.
And if you don't actually do a lot of food, because I had this tendency for a long time to not eat anything at all in the game. Like I ignored food completely, and I still have characters who do ignore food completely because they don't bother keeping up with the tier, because you level so fast in a lot of cases that it's tedious and time consuming to keep all of that food on hand because you have to have somebody cook it for you. Except I have a bunch of cooks, so they're doing it themselves, but I don't spend that enough time in game to just randomly cook food for people. Although I'm doing that right now. And then the other thing I did this week is Axelo, who is my Stout Axe Dwarf Champion, finally made his entrance on the game, aside from, doing the opening quest and then getting outfitted, because, you've got to not look like a noob when you're running around as a Stout Axe Dwarf Champion. And then he quested alongside. I went running with a friend of mine and was helping her to teach her burglaring skills because she was inspired by my Tales of Sarissa the Burglar. But Sarissa is level 100, so doesn't really make a great mentor for a level 5 burglar. So I took out the Stout Axe Dwarf Champion because he was level 8. And we went running around. And it's actually a lot of fun, basically being the tank for burglaring, because you can just stand there and yell at things, and then the burglar will come up behind you and behind them and stab it, and they die. It's great.
That's awesome.
It's especially awesome when you're hunting Neekers, and those ones in the Midgewater have this tendency to burrow.
Yeah.
Well, when they burrow and they have a burglar bleed on them, they just die. You don't have to wait for them to come back up.
Yes, I do that with spirits inside of Minas Morgul because they annoyingly also jump down, and I'm just waiting for the warden bleeds to kill them because they never get back up.
But yeah, so I had a fairly light week. So Sans, how about?
Well, Calandrian finally made it past the Pillar Gear epic battle. She's my squishy runekeeper, and she had help from the excellent Hunter Gorindus. It was also helpful that she's been doing epic battles with cinders, so she actually could upgrade the barricades and stuff to do more damage, which was pretty cool. And she could move them so they were actually like blocking the place. But she had tried it like 3 times before, and the twins kept dying. Like, no matter what she did, she couldn't keep one or both of the twins alive. Like, more than one, or even one alive. And so, yeah, she finally made it past the Pillar Gear epic battle. There were no twin deaths. I don't think Gorindus or I died either. I don't think we got even close to it. We just had fun killing everything. So, that was pretty cool, and we did pretty good. And yeah, I'm looking forward to actually being able to progress in the epic again now with Clondrian. So that was pretty cool. And Amalora came to greatly respect and appreciate Celeborn. She even apologized for a lot of things that she said about him needing to listen to his wife, and then told him that he probably should listen to her anyway. But she
Well,
was
I
she
can.
was deeply, deeply grateful for that, and also wishing that she was a hunter with desperate flight. Um, she and Sanswinda also both recommended against eating ancient evil for breakfast. No ancient evil for breakfast. It is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that no.
Don't eat the ancient evil.
Like Terry, I am so glad that they did not eat ancient evil for breakfast. I'm even more glad that they did not try to feed ancient evil to us at a feast later that day. Ancient evil is not on the menu in the Minas Morgul area, and I am so glad. And on Crick Hollow, my Bjorning, she's level 47 now, finished Epic Volume 1, Book 6 with Sunders and Pineleaf, and finished her class quests just after, as we were all logging off. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. So, how was your week, Pineleaf?
Oh yes, I can imagine the thing about getting appreciation for Celeborn. I know what you're talking about there.
Oh man, I have never been more glad to see an elf in my life.
Celeborn.
I have never been more glad to have a flashlight shown in my eyes. I have never been more glad for a lot of things. Yeah.
Yes. I know what you mean there. Yes, and in a couple of weeks, I'm sure Terry will have an idea what we're talking about. Then,
Yeah, no spoilers.
you're right. And now here on my Crick Hollow Warden headed deeper into Minas Morgul, where it went into the Circle of Sorrow and faced all sorts of nasty shades, especially ones that love diving into the ground and being bled to death by warden spears as they do so. Annoying, but at least they're bleeding while they're underground, and half the time they never get back up. And then during Friday night fight, my minstrel first went into a group with Ost Elendil. We had 4 players going into there, but most of the people were 70s, but my minstrel was 81, so we figured that balanced things out a little bit. And we managed to get through there, but just as we were finishing that up, no, actually, before we finished, that's right, we were just beginning on it when 2 people who were 128 arrived, and we decided, all right, best thing for us to do then is to have them join us so that we could get through here, so that we could split up into 2 groups. So I could go into my 128, and we went into 2 sets of 3s, and that's what we did after that. So after we split up, my warden joined them, went to the fray with the school, which we ran at level 128, which mostly went reasonably well, except when we got to the boss fight. And the boss fight would just look at our guardian and he would instantly die. I mean, literally,
Ouch.
all he would do, the guardian is about 20 feet away, just looks at him, and the guardian is boom, been defeated.
Your guardian was
That's
like
less
on
than
level,
ideal.
right? And like wearing armor?
128, yes, a 128 guardian was instantly killed by a 128 boss. Now,
Ouch.
I was being brutalized myself, and of course, I was on a 128 warden, so yeah, we did not have a dedicated healer to the bar. We had a guardian, a warden, and what was our third character? A DPS character. That's what I think, a hunter. So the closest thing we had to a healer was when I would try conviction, or where I would do self heals if I was the one who was trying to tank at the time. But oh boy, he was brutal, brutal, brutal. That's all I gotta say about that particular fight at 128. After that, we decided to run a skirmish. We ran Storm on Methadris, and we went through that mostly all right. But I think our guardian was. I think our guardian managed to get killed during that boss fight too. Then on Honor, my warden finished up in the Great River, and I attempted to fight one of those Limelight trolls to see whether or not I could solo Limelight Gorge, because I figured it's another month before they open up Rohan, so I might as well see what I'm doing here. And I was getting pretty much pummeled because I've forgotten that the trolls in Limelight Gorge, of course, have momentum.
Oops.
And I could see these momentum buffs slowly creeping up on the troll, and apparently this momentum is also increasing its speed, because I'm trying to go into assailment and just toss javelins. That was working, right? And just as I was thinking things were just completely hopeless on there, maybe I'll do a flop, a burglar came behind the troll and stunned it.
Well, that was nice of them.
Nice of it, yeah. And I said, "Oh boy, thank you, thank you, thank you for helping me with that," because I think I was either going to get killed, or I was going to flop, and the whole thing would have been for nothing on there. But it all went well with there. But after that, I decided, all right, no attempts to solo the Limelight Gorge. But then, what? Oh, that's right. Because of the discovering, I was wondering what I was going to do. I said, wait a minute. If discovering of the Descendant is now open for the legendary servers, that's what I could be doing between now and then. So thank you. Thank you, Standing Stones, for opening up that quest line, so now I can go and do that. And that concludes what I did for this week. We currently have 14 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to join this illustrious rate of players and help support LOTRO players, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. We did not Oh, no, actually, we do have an email this week. Ooh, I'm so used to saying we don't have any. That I almost missed that we do that. We do have one from Trotter. And Terry, what did Trotter say?
Well, Trotter said he's looking forward to our episode on how we did with our 2019 LOTRO goals and our 2020 LOTRO goals. And so thanks for doing this. We'll be very upset if Pine Leaf does not get a plus rating. Fast regards, Trotter. But I think we're actually going to do this when we get more of the group together.
More of the group together. All right, because I
mean, we can talk about our 2019 goals, because that was just kind of you and I and somebody making things up for Sans.
Yes, the made up ones were interesting.
Yeah.
So we can talk about how we did last year.
Yeah, this is probably a good time to do that. But yes, for our actual goals for next
actual
year,
setting 2020 goals, we'll do that in a future episode.
Do
you have the notes still from last year? Because I don't remember what mine were.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that little bit until that little note came out. So
we had these found earlier this week, guys. Give us just a second.
Yeah, we were discussing it on Tuesday, actually.
Yeah, on Tuesday, so that will be in less 7 days, so that will be under LOTRO players. Trying to figure out what the... Okay, that would have been on Monday, that would have been on... I suppose I don't have this thing well Is there a good way to bookmark that I just didn't know about? Let's see.
I would imagine it would still be in your browser history.
Yeah, that's where I'm looking right now, is in my browser history. Unfortunately, Oh, okay, here, LOTRO Players News. All right, this is... All right, here we go. I think it's in this episode here. All right, is this the one? All right. It'll have to be the other choice that we had there.
Darlin says, didn't you all just say you will play the game and enjoy it? Well, we did actually set specific goals.
We did actually set specific...
I mean, my goal was along the lines of, I'll play the game and enjoy it and forget the made-up ones.
And forget
I think
the
I
made-up.
succeeded.
Yeah, alright, let's try that one, and... Alright, here we go. I was assuming that this is where we were going to find it, but maybe... That's the problem. Actually, what date am I on this? I do. We'll go into shows, LOTRO Players News. Yes. See, someone had to remind us right at the time after. Maybe we forgot it on purpose.
Are you saying you didn't meet your goals, Pineleaf?
Actually, I think I did pretty much meet them. And let's see, we are at...
I found it.
Okay, you found it? Okay, good.
Okay, so my goals for 2019 were to play through whatever updates come out in 2019 on Terry Adwin to keep up to date with the story, which at the time that we set these, we weren't expecting an expansion to drop at the end of October. So I got through everything up until the expansion dropped in October.
Yeah. We're a good distance away into the Minas Morgul stuff.
Yeah, I mean we're pretty far progressed into Minas Morgul. We've been pretty focused on the story, but yeah, it's kind of hard to finish that out when you only play once a week on story content, and then you skip a couple of weeks because holidays happened.
Yeah.
I also said I would take at least one more character through Mordor. Technically, I took a character past Mordor because I already had a character to 120, so he's in the Bjorning hoops. So technically, this is a pass. Even though I didn't actually do Mordor again. And then I said I would get Sarissa through Western Rohan, which I did because she's in Central Gondor now. And I was going to take Axley and friends through Mirkwood, which we did because they're in Edwith. So I actually, with one minor, didn't quite exactly go through Mordor, but I'm past it. I succeeded at my goals for the year. And so Pineleaf was going to get halfway to Skirmisher of Middle-earth on his NR Warden.
Right, who currently is wearing that title.
Okay, so you're actually done with Skirmisher of Middle-earth.
Yeah.
Get World Renowned on the NR Warden without using rep clickies.
Right, I did not
purchased.
use any rep clickies at all for that. And yes, I did complete that.
And then on the main warden, complete any regions that are released prior to Thanksgiving, which again, technically, we didn't realize an expansion was coming out right, and yeah, because end of October.
He might have still done it though, Pine. Did you finish it? On your main
You gotta
warden?
remember, is that
on his main warden.
My main warden is also my... I don't think it was true during the time in which we recorded this, but my main warden is my video series warden. So therefore, I have a certain pace I need to go. And right now, as I said earlier, I'm at the second circle of Venus Morgul on that. Now, my lore master, I decided I had to do the content, so I actually did all that content on my lore master instead. So I did it on a character, it just wasn't my main warden. If I expected my first one to go through it all, would it be my main warden, which is why I specified that character. I should have said a character instead, I guess.
Next year.
But I think I was trying to distinguish this as opposed to my honor warden, because I certainly didn't want anyone to think that my honor warden was going to be trying to get through all that stuff, seeing how my honor warden was, well, obviously
Well, yeah.
not
Tapped
going to get anywhere
wherever.
near Venus Morgul.
Fair.
All right, so those are our goals that we did for last year. So I think we did reasonably well. So it's not quite an A plus.
Well, because at the start of the year, nobody expected we were getting another expansion by the end of the year.
Yeah.
I think if we had known in advance that the expansion was coming,
Especially in late October.
yeah, we would have changed those goals up a little bit, but we did pretty good.
Yeah, I think it was reasonably well considering the circumstances.
Dorlin gives an A- to both of you.
You know what? It's still a passing grade. I'll take it.
If you would like to send us an email, you can send it to podcast@LOTROplayers.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, the Players Alliance @PlayersLA, LOTROplayers @LOTROplayers, Arendis @Arendis, Pineleaf Pineleaf News, Sanswinda Sanswinda, and Terry Edwin @Terry Edwin. The Players Alliance has 2 shows on Mondays at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have DDO Players News, and on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have LOTRO Players News. You guys join us for our shows at LOTROplayers.com/live. And that's all for tonight. And this is Pilot Beagles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.